I remember the first prayer that I ever learned. See if you recognize this. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. I can see you finishing it. And if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Um, that's from the 17th century, and here I went mid 21st century. That's still one of the first prayers that I learned. And there was a certain way that we regarded prayer. It was about memorization for many of us. There were certain prayers that we remembered, and our attitude about prayer and about God was that if we just said it right, if we said it properly, if we got all the words right, if we said it with the right feeling, if we said it enough times, that then God would grant whatever our prayer wish was. How many was that kind of your concept of what prayer was growing up as a young person? I gotta switch views because I want to see who's responding. Yeah. Now I lay me down to sleep. What a scary thing. If I die before I wake. Like, what a weird thing to put on children. Um, and yet, I think what unity sort of, my understanding of prayer changed greatly once I got to unity, right? Because then it was not about wanting to somehow convince God that I was worthy of this, or somehow get God to change his mind, or somehow get God to do something that wasn't already being done, right? In unity, I came to understand that what prayer is about is really changing myself, changing my attitude, my belief, my behavior, so that I could more fully embody the qualities of God that I know are innate in me. So it was a very large shift for me when I first found unity. And I think key to being able to be in that kind of a prayerful connection with the divine is really what Lisa just sang about, right? It's about being able to bring what's most alive in my heart and my feelings and my believing and my emoting, bring that into my prayer experience with God. That's what prayer is, right? This complete sort of openness without boundaries, so that truly it becomes a transformative experience for me. I'm not trying to transform God or change God's mind or win God over. It's really about being completely open and even vulnerable about what's on my heart, so that in my prayer experience I can be open to a different way of seeing things, a different perspective, a way of seeing the world that is far more expansive, and it doesn't have to be in the way that I thought it was going to happen. So I kind of wanted to clarify that point about what we mean by transformative prayer. Transformative prayer in a unity context is really about how we bring a greater aspect of our own spiritual divinity into our connection with God. It's not about trying to change the divine. Like that, when you think about that, how arrogant is that? I'm going to change God's mind. The unchanging, infinite, ever-present, somehow how I show up is going to change that, right? So we want to be moving into a space of being very cognizant that our prayer life is really about how we can be more available and more present to the power and the divinity and the just incredible energy that the universe has for us to embody. Yeah. Um, Most of you are probably familiar with the story of Myrtle's healing, but it's such a central part of Unity's understanding and Unity's founding, this sort of prayerful experience. Most of you are aware of Silent Unity. I'm going to throw that out there again as a beautiful resource. For almost 150 years now, Silent Unity has been in prayer around the clock. Prayer is baked into everything about Unity teachings and Unity understanding. And I'm reiterating that now because I feel like more than ever, at least in my own experience, it's been harder to have that authentic connection to God. I notice even my affirmations can sometimes become a little bit rote. And because there's so much noise and commotion in the world, I feel like my prayer life is not keeping up. And that's not to say I haven't been maintaining the practice that I've had in place for years, but now, especially because there is so much energy that we're having to incorporate and so many challenges that the world is facing, it feels like we need to up our game where prayer is considered. So that's why I'm suggesting that, maybe it's been a while since you've called Silent Unity with a prayer request. It's time to renew that connection. Call in the troops in every form of support that you can, because especially between now and the election, we are being called to a new crisis every day. And that is going to get overwhelming if we don't have a corresponding balance in keeping ourselves centered and grounded. So that's what I want to talk about here. Like the title of my talk today was something about moving from, I've forgotten what it was. Weary, I think it was. Moving from weary, a weariness about the world, and a weariness about all of the stuff that we're having to contend with and deal with, and moving that into a space of being present to the awesome, incredible power of God, so that we can renew ourselves in that awe, in that wonderment about how incredibly powerful the universe truly is. That's what I want to talk about this morning. So I first want to talk a little bit more about sort of the weariness, just to see if it's resonating with you. Are you finding that, we heard this week about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her death, and what that might mean for the ramifications of the country. And there's this whole other battle that's already starting to emerge, right? And it's really easy to get hooked by that. I'm doing my fishhook thing again. It's really easy to get hooked by that. And as I spoke about last week, there is a balance to be struck between being informed about what's happening on the planet and in the world, and also being fully aware and accepting of the broader view, of the greater picture, the greater perspective. And we cultivate that through our prayer work. So I would say first, we take Lisa's advice and bring our full self, whatever it is, that experience that we're having that feels somewhat overwhelming, to be able to allow that to be a part of what we bring to Spirit, allow that to be part of what we're able to transform, yeah? And then also to be fully cognizant that there is a greater picture. That's what's happening on the surface level in the world, but there's a deeper truth and a deeper connection that we open ourselves to. So as we accept that kind of weariness that might be arising, it also gives us an opportunity to sort of really evaluate whether or not we are creating that sense of wonderness and wow factor that keeps us open and expansive, yeah? So I want to talk a little bit about how that might look. Most of us, and we're fortunate enough, most of us, to be able to pay attention to what we're giving, how we're nourishing our physical bodies, right? We pay attention to what we're eating and how nutritious it is. A lot of us I know are on gluten-free diets, and so we put a lot of attention into how we're nourishing our physical bodies. And what I'm suggesting is, in this moment in time, it's crucially important that we give that much attention to how we're nourishing our souls. What is it that we're feeding our souls in this time? Because if it's just the constant barrage of what's happening in the world and how it needs to be transformed, and we need to show up as love, if it's just that kind of intense wondering about what's ours to do next, that's going to get overwhelming. So what I'm suggesting is that we switch our diets up where soul is concerned, and that we start to feed ourselves in ways that renew us in that space of wonder. Anne Lamott wrote a book all about sort of the three prayers. One is oh my gosh, now I can't remember. Thanks, wow. Please, thanks, wow. Help, thanks, wow. There it is, the three prayers. Help, thanks, wow. So help is sort of in the space of recognizing that we've gone as far as we can on our own juice. I'm doing all that I can in order to stay present and be a responsible citizen and bring my spiritual understanding and apply my principles to that. I've reached a point where I've done all I can. So the help prayer is how we invoke Spirit. It's a surrender into what is. It's an acceptance of what is, and also a surrendering and allowing Spirit to move in and uplift and move me into a different space of being, so that I can then have an attitude of gratitude. Then I can start to be thankful for another perspective, start to be thankful that there is relief even in this, as I allow myself or avail myself of that. And so that's help and thanks. Wow is the piece that I'm wanting to spend the rest of our time on this morning. So the wow is about reminding ourselves that we are a part of something greater, that there is this immense universe out there. We are one of a billion people walking around on this planet, several billion, right? I don't know, are we 6 billion? Is that what it is now? Walking around on this amazing planet, and this amazing planet is hurtling around the sun, right? In a solar system that itself is hurtling through space, in a cosmos that is ever expansive, and these billions of stars all around us. I mean, there's a wow factor that as we allow ourselves to be present to what creation really truly is, rather than continuing to feed ourselves on the problems that are showing up, particularly in our political life, if we feed ourselves on that which is greater than our own personal lives, it allows us to expand our perspective. It allows us to sort of be in that space of wonder that Jesus called us to, especially, I think, in his call to become his little children, right? That, I think, is exactly what he's referring to in the space of being open and receptive to wonderment. It's about maintaining sort of the consciousness of a child. I'm going to share a brief reading from Matthew chapter 8. This is verses, I don't know, 1 through 3 or 4 or something like that. At the time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Right? The disciples at this point are all caught up in which of them is going to be the top disciple. Who's going to be sitting next to Jesus on the throne of God, right? They're all concerned with the politics of the planet, of the worldly stuff. And Jesus ain't having it. He's given him some coaching about, all right, how do you get back to what's truly important? And he did this, as he often did, by sort of demonstrating or pointing to something in the world around him. He did it a lot with flowers and fields, but here he did it with a child. He called a child whom he put among them and said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever becomes humble like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me." This, I believe, is his coaching for us to stay in that openness and that receptive and the curiosity that a child brings to life. A child is totally present to what is. My mom was talking not too long ago. She has her great grandkids were there, and they were playing some kind of game, and she was wanting to give it a little bit more structure because they were just out of control. And so by the time she found a football, she was going to throw out a football and have them bring it back. They were on to the next game. You know, they're so fully present into the moment. They're not waiting around for us to put our structure on their experience of fun while they're running around in the front yard. That's what we're called to do, right? We can be informed about what's happening in the world. We can be concerned and asking questions like the disciples were. But the deeper capacity for us to be present to the kingdom of God and to bring it forth is for us to be in that place of receptivity and openness and fully present to the now moment, so that we don't get so bogged down by the troubles of the world that we aren't available to that expansive nature of the divine, that we aren't allowing it to move fully into our life experience. So I questioned whether or not to share this next part of, it's the very next couple of phrases, and it's sort of the cautionary side of it, right? So it's what I believe is this is what happens to us. You got to hear it as a speaking to what happens to us personally, right? Not what those people are doing to us, but this is an invitation for self-reflection if we stay sort of focused on the worldly stuff. Jesus says, if any of you put a stumbling block before one of these little ones who believe in me, it would be better for you if a great millstone were fastened around your neck and you were drowned in the depths of the sea, right? That's how critical it is for us to stay in a space of wonder, to stay in that childlike appreciation for what is. If we lose that, we might as well be sunk to the bottom of the ocean. It is so, I don't usually do the warnings in preaching, but I think now, because the temptation and the temptation is so great to get caught up in the headlines and the cable news networks and all of the noise about political campaigns, that is such a huge temptation that it's important for us to understand and recognize that it will kill us. It is soul-killing stuff if we get immersed in that. And so to be in wonderment and to find places where you can bring that, you know what that is, right? No, we're not going there. That's going to be our meditation. So maybe that's my cue to move into meditation. What I'm wanting to do in meditation is I'm going to invite you to look back over your own experience, and maybe it's a recent experience, or maybe you go back to some memory that you hold dear, but to really engage in us that inner sense of wonder that we know is the childlike wonder that opens the kingdom of heaven to us. And hopefully in this experience, it will become a tool or a touchstone so that as you look at expanding your own prayer life over these next few weeks, that you have this to rely on, this to go back to, this to sort of bookmark as the kind of experience that we're wanting to make sure we're including to nourish our souls in this time, and not just feeding our minds with the other stuff. Yeah? So at this point, I think I'll go ahead and invite Lisa to prepare the space for us as we move into this time of meditation. And then I'll lead us in kind of a visualization.
Picking up on your cues about being a child. Today I'm only gonna speak the truth. Today I'm only gonna speak the truth. And I'll be like a child in everything I do. Today I'm only gonna speak the truth. Today I'm gonna build my thoughts on faith. Today I'm gonna build my thoughts on faith. And I'll trust they'll take me to a higher place. Today I'm gonna build my thoughts on faith.
And so into this wonderful space of reflection, I would invite you to relax a little more fully. Whatever it is that you do to become comfortable and available to Spirit, if it's closing your eyes, if it's resting your hands or clasping them in prayer position, however it is that you become most available to Spirit, I invite you to move into that posture now. And then begin by just noticing your breath. On the inhale, breathe in love and possibility. And on the exhale, breathe out anything that is unlike the divine. And as you just continue noticing your breath, see if it doesn't expand a bit, that there is a greater expansion on the inhale and you feel your chest rise and open. And there's a greater emptying on the exhale. You feel a sense of contraction. And just take a couple of more breaths and then let go of attention on the breath. And I invite you then to move into a space of being available to an experience that you have already had at some point in your life or in your journey. And it's an experience, we're looking for an experience where you've felt just the sense of awe and wonder. If you picture a child looking up at fireworks, maybe one of the first times they've ever witnessed it, and you see just the gleam in their eye, this fascination, this incredible sense of joy and wonder. That's what we're looking for. We're wanting to recreate the emotional and the psychic experience of being in that kind of wonderment. So as you look over your own experience, find a memory that calls that forth in you. For many people, it tends to be something found in nature, some beautiful vista, or some quiet, bubbling brook, where you're really in touch with nature. For others, it might be some kind of a celebration, an awareness of something good emerging in your life, and it just moves you to a space of just being in awe and wonder. For others, maybe it's a beautiful piece of music, something that touches your heart and opens you maybe even to the point of tears, but it's tears that arise out of joy and amazement. So I want you to find a personal experience where you have had that kind of response. And just for a moment, rest in that. Allow that to magnify in your experience. Anchor it in your consciousness so that you have easy access to it at any point. But for this next few moments, as we just rest in silence, just imagine all of the detail of this experience that will bring it back to you even more fully, so that truly you feel a sense of fullness, a childlike wonder, an awe at the grandeur and the connection that we share beyond anything that's tangible. Rest in your own personal memory of an experience like that now in the quiet. And very gently now, I would invite you to turn your attention to your breathing. And together we give thanks. We give thanks for the awareness that we get to choose when and how we nourish our souls. That as we nourish our souls in this way, that divine guidance becomes more accessible and we become more effective. We become more childlike in our ability to bring forth the kingdom of heaven on earth. So thank you, God, for the assurance that this experience is always available to us, and for the assurance that out of it we do create the kingdom of heaven on earth in our experience, and we become a channel through which it expresses on the planet. So it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
I am walking hand in hand with God. Today I'm walking hand in hand with God. 'Cause I trust with Him nothing is wrong. Today I'm walking hand in hand with God.
Hey, thanks for watching this YouTube video. If Unity's message of positive spiritual living resonates with you, I hope you'll subscribe to our channel so you can stay up to date on other lessons as we post them. Also, if you're able to support us financially in the work that we do in the world, please check below for contact information. You can visit our website, find more about what programming we offer, as well as how to give. Blessings.